Welcome back to the Bitcoin Treasuries podcast. I'm Tim Kotzman. I'm here with Tad Smith. Tad, the last time we were together, you asked me a few questions toward the end, and we decided to continue that conversation. So
it was election night.
Election night 2024.
Yes, big night for all of us. So yes, so I had some questions at the end of that, and you are kind to have me back because I'd actually like to play it out a little bit and finish my questions. That's okay.
Absolutely.
And the purpose of this is I think there's something really interesting about what you are doing in Bitcoin and to promote Bitcoin. And I think there's some lessons for lots of people in what you're doing, and also interesting themes that resonate with different aspects of life that I've observed that I think will be really fascinating to hear you say. So do you mind if we start?
Let's dig in.
All right, so let's dig right in. Well, in your own words, Tim, what are you doing?
Well, since the beginning of 2021, I've been enthusiastic about Bitcoin. Through a series of events, I found myself in this studio and...
Through a series of events?
Mysterious events? Very mysterious events.
Like what mysterious events?
So Anthony posted on his X profile that he was launching an investor exchange program here at his office. And so I filled out the Google form and submitted it, had a call with him, and he said, come on in. We're going to have a few people here for maybe a few days or a week or a month, and we'll all work on our own stuff. We'll chat. We'll learn from each other. I said, great. So I came back to the studio, introduced myself to Matt, the co-owner of the Manhattan Lab here, and he said, Tim Kotzman, I know you. I remember you were on the Best Business Show years and years ago. And I said, oh, okay. And, you know, these connections that we kind of pick up along the way and sometimes forget about. And so I thought, well, while I'm here, it'd be great to sit down in a professional studio and get that experience. So I recorded a few videos, and if you scroll all the way back to the beginning, there's a couple of videos of me in a blue tie that have, 7 views.
So were you in a blue pill then and you're an orange pill now, or how does this work?
So again, I was just kind of putting on, a suit and doing a video about Bitcoin because I had the opportunity to be in a studio and thought, I'm going to be here this week, I'm going to be gone next week, and that'll be a cool experience. And then through some introductions to what are now kind of largely the True North, MSTR.
We're going to come to MSTR True North in just a minute, for sure.
Okay.
And we're definitely going down that.
Okay.
But I just want to know, people see you, and I'm talking thousands of people, every week, multiple times, in a dark suit, a white shirt, and an orange tie. And you're interviewing people. And you have this, what did you say? Someone said it was stoic. You have a stoic mien and a very warm expression. And I'd like to know, as a background, what do you really do? What are you doing? It's really fascinating to me. Are you the model of the new economy for the millennials and the Gen Zs, and that you have provided an educational opportunity to tens of thousands of people to understand a new set of money? How is this a job for you? How do you see it? Tell us what's going on here, because there's something that is not quite boomer world, but you wear a suit like one, and yet is far in advance of where things are going. And I really want to bore into this a little bit.
So I think when I first put the orange tie on, it was trying to understand the mechanics of MSTR, now known as strategy. And as I was meeting people and having people on, it was also a mix of Bitcoin, not necessarily a Bitcoin equity sort of content. And then from there, it just kind of kept going. So I don't know that there was...
kind of kept going. It just kept going.
So I don't know that there was a strategy.
But is there one now?
For the podcast now? Yeah.
What's your life plan here?
Under the umbrella of the Bitcoin Treasuries podcast, I think there's seemingly an endless amount of analysts, chairmen, CEOs,
so when we finally
CFOs.
hit $13 million a coin, you're still going to be doing this?
I hope so. Several people have different opinions on that, whether it's going to be for a year or two or a lifetime. I enjoy it, and I think for as long as it's useful to myself and others, I would like to do it.
And let's talk about that for a minute. What is the utility to you of interviewing people and putting it on X?
I think there's so many different pieces to it, because when you're, call it, performing in public, I mean, well, hopefully you're refining and advancing your presentation skills, your ability to relate to other people, being able to educate myself to become more knowledgeable on the area, and then help other people, whether it's individuals or companies, maybe at some point advising companies, certainly through all of the distribution channels, X, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, et cetera, sponsorships. There's an opportunity to make it into that sort of an opportunity to earn income. So I think there's a lot there, and to be able to do something that you're interested in and enthusiastic about, and now ever more passionate about. I mean, I don't think you could ask for anything more than that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to come back to that in just a few minutes, but tell me about switching from the blue to the orange tie. You just woke up one day and said, enough of the Dutch Royal colors blue, we'll switch to the Dutch Royal colors orange.
It is actually, to me at least, kind of a funny story. Sometimes I'll say, I'm going to tell you a funny story to my girlfriend. She'll say, but am I going to think it's funny? Like, no, but I'm just going to tell you the story anyways.
We're going to leave your girlfriend out of this. Go ahead.
So I had ordered, I don't know, something. I actually posted this on X. It's on there somewhere on the web. Like 15 or 20 orange ties from Amazon. Some were $6, some were $16.
You ordered 15 or 20 orange ties.
Yes, for October. What I was hoping was going to be October of 2024.
And you felt compelled in October 24 to wear one every single business day, and it had to be a different one.
Not necessarily, but I think...
Necessarily what?
I believe, if my memory serves me, that Saylor had worn an orange tie prior to that, and maybe that's where that inspiration came from. Literally the day that I came in to record the first episode in an orange tie, Punter Jeff and Ryan released their Men in Orange, or whatever it's called, episode where they were both wearing orange ties. And I think that's the only time they ever did it. And I was like, oh no, I wanted to be the second person to wear the orange tie. I think I was the third or, fourth. And then, gave you an orange tie, hoping,
I appreciated the orange tie.
Maybe the fifth.
And you've been consistently in an orange tie since.
Every episode, yeah. Well, not the True North episode. Sometimes I'm in a polo shirt and people are up in arms. Where is the orange tie? Is Tim okay? But when I'm in the studio, it's an orange tie.
And what does the orange tie say about you?
I mean, I just view it as the Bitcoin orange tie. So I think it conveys the essence of Bitcoin. I think it conveys energy. I think it conveys professionalism. But I mean, certainly it's just kind of a little pop of color that if I'm just walking the streets of New York, no one's really thinking twice. But to do that consistently, I think sends that communication of what I think what Bitcoin represents. Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by OnRamp. Bitcoin custody is evolving. Both self-custody and single third-party custody come with significant risks and trade-offs. OnRamp is pioneering a new standard, multi-institution custody, which eliminates single points of failure adding fault tolerance and redundancy to your setup. OnRamp secures your Bitcoin in a segregated, cold storage, multi-sig vault, guarded by 3 independent, institutional-grade custodians, none of which have unilateral control. Multi-institution custody removes the technical, mental, and physical burdens of private key management, providing unparalleled peace of mind for you and your loved ones. To learn more, schedule a consultation with the OnRamp team. Go to www.onrampbitcoin.com.
And to you, what does Bitcoin represent in your life?
Great question.
Well, it took a few minutes.
I think it represents the opportunity for freedom and for learning and for exploration.
Okay, let's do the first one. Freedom for what or from what?
I think we're so early in so many
talking about
different
you.
aspects.
Let's go to I, not we.
I think.
What does it mean for you? Freedom for Tim, or freedom from something for Tim?
I think there's the financial freedom aspect of it.
Do you feel financially free, or you feel the possibility of financial freedom from Bitcoin, or which, or something else?
I think from the time that I started accumulating in 2021 until now, which has certainly been through an entire cycle.
And you've never sold? It's an easy yes or easy no. So if it's not a no, then it's a yes, you've sold.
I have traded, but I have not sold any significant
You've
position.
Traded, but you're not sold?
I'm sold on Bitcoin.
I know you're sold. Okay, well, maybe we'll come back to that too. We're going to have a long list of things we're going to come back to.
I've purchased Bitcoin.
All right, but
I've
let's
sold
stay on
Bitcoin.
freedom for just a minute.
But stacking is the focus and the goal.
I see that.
Yeah.
So freedom, financial freedom. Anything else? I mean, is your life free in the way you've constructed it now?
I think so. I think there's a lot of flexibility. I think there's, with the projects that I manage, with the other work I do, there's certainly responsibility, but there's that flexibility and freedom, which is really important and really that I'm very grateful for, to have that flexibility and freedom.
And it comes from Bitcoin.
I think
or you had it and then Bitcoin became an expression of it, or you feel more of it associated with Bitcoin, because we're going to turn to your past in just a minute. And you know, on LinkedIn, Tim Kotzman has quite a profile. You have a long and distinguished career in minerals, investments, real estate, brokerage, a whole different. I mean, you're almost the sort of model member of the professional class.
So I did earn my freedom, so to speak, several years ago when I was 37, around 2019, maybe a few years before that. But Bitcoin, I think, would take it to the next level, because there's having some flexibility and being able to choose what you do. But I think for myself, investing in Bitcoin and now Bitcoin related equities and products could really unleash an amount of freedom that very few people really get to experience.
And in terms of the freedom that people get to experience if I understood you, from investing in Bitcoin and what some people call leveraged Bitcoin equities, like Strategy or things like that, or MetaPlanet or others. Is there some sort of universal life principle that people can draw from that, from your experience?
Universal life principle?
Yeah. Is there, what can a person fresh out of college learn from your track record, your own conversion, your own road to Bitcoin Damascus?
I guess just being open-minded, but not so open-minded that your brain falls out, but always curious, always, for myself, I'm not afraid of, well, I'm really good at a few things. I'm good at making mistakes. I'm good at not really caring if I'm making a mistake in public or asking a question. But just like, I just want to learn what the reality is and whether that's something that confirms my thesis or not. I just want to kind of get to that.
And what's your thesis?
Well, with anything, like, oh, I thought it was this. I'm not going to be
what's
upset.
your life thesis? I mean, so let's step back for a minute. You have this very traditional finance model professional career. Anyone can go on LinkedIn and look at it.
Yeah, but not really.
Tell me why.
Well, I started out in restaurant and nightclub management.
But that's so far back, nobody would even see that on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's like on page 27.
Yeah.
Okay, let's stay on page like the top 20 pages. I'm teasing.
Yeah, but then getting into an entrepreneurial journey.
Say more.
That was on the land and acquisition side of oil and gas.
How'd you do that?
I was literally bartending at a restaurant and met a guy that was doing what I then ended up doing. I went to a 2-day seminar, sat in the front row, and just tried to understand what is a land professional, what is a land man, which is short for manager. And got into that industry through the only non-technical role, right? Usually it's
I presume you watch Landman, by the way.
I have not yet, but I've had several people let me know that it's available.
Well, you can add me to the list to tell you to watch it.
Okay.
So that's a pretty amazing thing. And how long did you do that?
2008 through 2015 before.
7 years.
And then at that point, still doing that, but more in an executive role, managing a team, buying oil and gas rights across 5 states. So yeah, kind of a non-traditional, very kind of through a sales door, like entrepreneurial sales.
So I have you all wrong. You're not sort of a card-carrying TradFi professional class member. You're a scrappy up entrepreneur.
I would say that's more accurate. And
is it right?
Yeah, and I hopefully.
Is that how you think of yourself? A scrappy, smart entrepreneur?
Well, I don't know about smart, but definitely entrepreneurial. Yeah.
You don't think you're smart? I think you're smart.
Well,
there are thousands of people that think you're smart.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm not.
I think we're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think you're smart if you can go from one failure to the next without losing enthusiasm.
Was it a failure?
I mean, I think we all have failures as we go along.
No, I'm not talking about generic. I'm talking about you. Did I get it right? 7 or 8 years as landman a failure?
No, absolutely not.
It was a success.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what happened next?
Another success.
Tell me how you got to it. Tell me what came up next.
So doing the field land work as a consultant would be the fancy word, or a contractor would be the actual word. To then one of the owners of the brokerage for the client, we had a conversation and he said, hey, we can get a family office to back us potentially and go buy minerals. And so that's what ended up happening. Started out the 2 of us as partners. We built a team up to 72 people and bought hundreds of millions of dollars worth of minerals across 5 states at the right place at the right time, building the right team in Pittsburgh and West Texas and Fort Worth, and then exiting that to New York. So yeah, I mean, I think anyone that can figure out how to create an opportunity is very, very smart. I don't think it's necessarily,
I think that's incredibly impressive.
I don't think it's charming to sit here and call yourself smart.
Well, you don't have to, but I think it's incredibly impressive. What life lessons did you draw from that ultimately brought you to where we are today? You had a lot of pretty wild experiences, I suspect, during that period of time. And both periods of time. 1 as landman, 2 as royalty guy.
Yeah, I think the very same simple fundamental lessons of being willing to one, just do anything that you need to do. I mean, when I was one of 2 partners at this mineral firm, and my business partner was more on the business development side, I was more on the operations side. I joked around that I was just continually opening up offices and kind of coordinating that, and I realized that I really enjoyed meeting people and putting deals together because it was opening up offices and interviewing people in order to try to build a staff on a shoestring budget. So like put aside that COVID hadn't happened yet and put aside that it's really difficult to find quality people to show up to an office. This is pre-COVID for, less than market rate. I mean, you're just interviewing, you're looking at hundreds, if not thousands of resumes. You're interviewing dozens, if not 100+ people to try to build a staff of 72 people, even after you've put some people on the bus through personal relationships. Just being willing to learn and do whatever it takes, which sounds cliche, but like how many people are doing it? How many people are showing up to the office? And now that we're in 2025 and we have this almost conversation about how we shouldn't have to go to the office 3, 4, 5 days a week. And, maybe that's a legitimate debate. Maybe it's not, but that's not.
Okay,
not where I was.
So what happened next? You built a business with your partner, and sounds like it's going well. And then what happens?
2019, I exited the partnership, moved from Fort Worth, Texas, up to Manhattan.
How come?
We had built the business up, and most of the business was coming out of Texas at that point. I really enjoy Texas, but my business partner is from there. I'm from Pennsylvania. And so we had a discussion and decided that I would take half the assets, half the cash, and either take on a different role or exit completely, which was a very nice compliment because he said, most people probably would not do well or succeed in taking on another role after being a founder, but he was confident that I could do that if I so chose. So that was a very nice compliment. And then, I said, I'll take that deal and go on to the next adventure, which was moving to New York.
So you arrive in the city. Did you have something you planned to do when you got here?
I was just going to enjoy New York. I was 37 years old. I thought, now that I made a few bucks, I can just...
This is 2019.
Summer of 2019.
So you have about 6 months before the hammer falls.
Yeah.
7 months.
Yeah, but we didn't know that.
You didn't know that then.
So moved to New York. I was enjoying living right next to Central Park.
Did you wear a suit?
I was not wearing a suit.
The suit came later?
The suit came much later.
No orange tie? You weren't even wearing the blue tie then?
I didn't even... the only exposure or conversation I had about Bitcoin up to that point...
We're not talking about Bitcoin. We're talking about the tie.
No tie.
No tie. Did you wear a tie, by the way, when you were building up the minerals business?
No.
How about as landman? Maybe landman in a suit?
No. It was more, even with the minerals, it was TradFi in Texas of the Patagonia vest with your company logo on it.
Count. Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
But
so still no suit.
No tie. Yep.
You're 37. You just moved to New York City and no suit. Okay, then what happens?
I only owned 2 suits and I'm still wearing one of them right now.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So then.
Yeah. So New York, thought, I'll just read some books, walk through Central Park,
You're just going to read books
life,
and walk through Central Park.
and that's it. But it was still trying to broker mineral deals and
Were you a little bit lost here, or were you sort of finding yourself, or you just wanted a break, or kind of spent and burnt out? I mean, what was it?
I think all of those things.
All of those things.
All of those things. After feverishly building a business for 4 years straight.
Yeah.
I think that's right. And then the attorney that helped me transfer assets from the company that I just exited out of, he said, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, after I gave it some thought, I almost went into a depression because I knew that I didn't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. And that was demotivating, to put it
You mean
lightly.
Financially didn't have to do anything?
Right.
What's that feel like?
It's exhilarating. And then I was kind of spiraling into a depression.
Say more.
I mean, whether it's to make money or, I just think everyone or most people, for myself, I need to have a purpose.
Is the paradox for you in this period of that the financial freedom that it comes with suddenly your purpose becomes a little bit unclear. Or if everything you've been working to up to this point had produced the opportunity for you to have financial freedom in a way that was honestly profoundly rewarding, and then suddenly everything you'd worked for was done and you had the financial freedom, you didn't need to do anything, but suddenly you had no mission.
Yeah, I think all of those things are right. Feeling a little bit lost.
What's it like to feel like you have no purpose or no mission?
It doesn't feel great.
Yeah, I bet. Do you have kids?
No kids. So yeah, I mean, it reminds me of, I don't know if it was a past president or someone that said the only thing more jolting than having, 300 emails a day come in is having 0 emails a day come in.
I'm not sure about that, but I suspect it's not the current president. Okay, so now you're not feeling great. You are the model of traditional success, financial success. You're in New York City. You don't have to work. You really don't have to do anything. And then what happens?
The attorney that helped me transfer some assets said, "What do you
He said, yeah.
want to do now?" And after I gave it some thought, I said, well, I don't know anyone. I literally don't know anyone with capital that would write me a check.
Well, you had capital.
Right.
Right.
So I could buy and sell deals on my own.
Sure.
And I had a lot of experience on the deal side.
Sure.
So I said,
you had a lot of experience, period.
So
a whole lot of sides.
The next challenge for me would be raising capital. And he said, oh, well, you can do that through this thing called a private placement. I said, what's that?
Right.
So that started that journey of launching several private funds to do both the deal side and the capital side for minerals.
Did they give you a sense of purpose?
It did. It did, yeah.
What was the purpose?
Well, it was the challenge of tapping into my existing network and then, as appropriate, expanding my network to raise that capital and gain that experience. Because, the capital and the deal side, then you're working with the attorneys, the accountants, you're raising capital, you're purchasing the assets, you're issuing quarterly reports. And so getting all of that experience in the private markets.
You have a lot of tasks, for
sure. Lots of tasks.
And you're feeling a sense of purpose for them. Or you're just feeling busy.
It was definitely exhilarating to be able to
launch a business.
Yeah, to launch a business and on some very small level succeed at a new challenge that, something I hadn't done before.
Was it a very small level?
I think so, yeah. I mean,
really?
It's a very, very small amount of capital from retail investors.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's
but
then what happened? But what?
The lesson and the theme that I took away from 2015 to 2019 is I was in the office of a portfolio CEO of a private equity company in Houston. He was from New York originally. Mm-hmm. He was very upfront and long-winded in a very gracious way about how unhappy he was that he was the CEO of a mineral company, but he had to have a meeting every week and tell them how many pencils were in the drawer and forward the resume for the admin he wanted to hire. And he was like a manager or coordinator and all of those strings attached. And so what I took from those couple of conversations, that one being the best example of that, is I'd rather do something on my own and have that sovereignty and freedom rather than do something where I'm the flippity flop mineral CEO for one of Apollo's portfolio companies. That was not really that appealing to me, unless also wasn't offered to me, but we did receive term sheets and verbal, offers, and they were just, everything has to go perfectly and you got to hit this waterfall and kind of just buy yourself a job with maybe you have some upside, maybe you don't. So doing something and being independent was really important to me based on those conversations, and that's what I ended up doing. And so for that piece of it, it was challenging, and I was able to stay independent. And so all of that, I think, was regardless of whether it was on a big level or a small level, was really successful.
Okay, so tell me about the orange pill. When is this? 21?
January of 21.
January. You remember exactly when it was?
Yeah, I could pull
What
up.
exactly? Tell me exactly what happened.
So one of the investors that was a LP in the mineral funds said, "Hey, majority of my net worth is in Bitcoin."
Did you think he was crazy? I assume it's he. Could have been a she.
Absolutely.
You thought he was crazy.
I remember on the call to walk him through my private placement proposal.
Uh-huh.
I literally said things like, I mean, this is real property recorded on a deed in a courthouse. It's not.
And you meant as opposed to
it's not
a crazy piece of code that nobody should pay anything for, much less $1,000.
Well, and I didn't even know what Bitcoin was at that point, but I just assumed that it was something wild and crazy.
Was
and
it
nonsensical.
something wild and crazy? Says the guy who wears a suit and an orange tie and buys 16 of them in the month of October 2024.
I think it's wild.
Is that a little wild and crazy?
Yeah, but it's not nonsensical. But you just have to.
It's not nonsensical.
You have to educate yourself.
Can you see that some people might think it's kind of nonsensical? By the way, they could also be wrong.
I think the education piece is like cannot be overstated, and we could spend so much time on it. And that's in essence what I'm sitting here doing now, like for myself and anyone that wants to.
It turns out thousands of people want to.
Yeah.
So did you ever orange pill this mineral guy that called up and said he was a bunch, or he orange pilled you, I guess?
He orange pilled me.
Did he do your mineral thing?
Yeah.
He did? He put some money in that?
Yep.
So he actually said, I'm going to sell my Bitcoin to put money into your thing, or I just had extra cash lying around?
I think it was other capital, yeah.
So with the benefit of today's hindsight, would you sell your Bitcoin to put money into your mineral thing?
No.
No. Why?
No. I mean, there's just no asset that has a better return over 4 or 5 year length of time. So,
okay.
Yeah. The Bitcoin for Corporations Conference is coming to Orlando May 6th and 7th. Receive 20% off admission by going to microstrategy.com, selecting Bitcoin for Corporations, and using discount code KOTZ at checkout, and I'll see you there. Hey guys, today's episode is brought to you by Stampseed. If you're in cold storage, you know how important it is to protect your seed phrase. That's why I recommend you head over to stampseed.com and check it out for yourself. This seed phrase storage device is one solid piece of titanium. There are no loose pieces, and you can hammer your seed phrase in letter by letter. When you go to stampseed.com, use promo code TIM15 for a 15% discount across the website. That's TIM15.
All right. So time evolves, and that was in January 21.
Yep.
We're 4 years later. What have been the key changes in you and professionally in the last 4 years?
In the last 4 years.
Well, up to maybe last, because we got to get into the suddenly you become a podcast phenomenon. So let's go up to, but not including that. Professionally, what are you doing between, say, January 2021 and call it January 2024?
So launching a series of funds in the mineral space.
More funds, more mineral funds.
More funds. Actually, we did launch one Bitcoin fund.
But you're not orange pilled yet.
I was orange pilled as of January 2021.
But you told me you thought he was kind of crazy.
Prior to the call where he went through his presentation and his personal story about Bitcoin.
You were so persuaded by this presentation. I
was. I think part of me was just excited at the possibility that of a new technology, something that I could learn more about. But when someone gives you their personal story and says, I put all of my, or the majority of my net worth into Bitcoin at $3,000, and here's what happened. I mean, that's a personal story that caused me to want to learn more and be very excited. So what a great way to begin.
So did you put some money into Bitcoin then?
Before we even had the call, I thought, well, I can't show up to this call and not own Bitcoin. So I went on to an app on my phone and bought some Bitcoin.
Did you buy a little bit, just enough to like a nominal amount, just so you could say you own it?
Exactly.
It was part of your sales technique. You wanted to say, "Oh yeah, I know that."
Well,
because you knew he'd gone down the rabbit hole.
I just wanted to be one of the cool kids. Like, oh, I have
was
some
it
Bitcoin.
cool then for you?
I mean, I thought it was cool, and then from there,
but still no suit.
Still no suit.
Still no tie.
Still no tie.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So play the tape forward. Then what happens?
So raising capital, managing these mineral funds, dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin.
Are you bored yet on this stuff? Not with telling the story, but the mineral stuff. Is it fulfilling to you? You're still having the sense of purpose that you were looking for when you were walking around Central Park reading, and you financially were independent.
Yeah, I mean, raising,
but it's got to be
larger checks. That part was
beginning to get
was interesting. Yeah.
And are you getting diminishing returns for sense of purpose during this period of time?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Mm-hmm. And going to events, what
do minerals people talk about at mineral events? What goes on there?
Drinking beer, drinking whiskey, and talking about deals. Yeah,
well,
I mean, I haven't been to any of those events in a while.
Watch Landman and you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah. You've seen it all before. Okay, so then tell me the next Bitcoin experience.
So
for you, I mean,
flying to El Salvador and meeting Max Kaiser and Stacy and Robert Breedlove at an event.
Whoa.
That was fun.
Okay, who invited you to El Salvador?
I did.
You invited.
Well, Max put on
somebody. You just woke up and say, "Hey, Central Park's kind of cloudy today, so I'm going to go to El Salvador." I mean, what happened here exactly?
Yeah, Max Kaiser had posted that they were putting on an event.
Did you know Max?
No, but
what?
They said you can get a ticket. There's a limited amount of tickets, and if you get a ticket, then you can just show up and
you can just fly down to El Salvador and see Max Kaiser and talk Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What year was this?
2021.
And you had the money. What do you remember? What season? When it was? Roughly what month?
February.
Okay, so shortly after your minerals buddy orange pills you.
Yeah, actually, it was probably 22 or 23 because it wasn't 21. But
all right, so a little later.
But yeah, I mean, it was the whole. We have some tickets.
Had you been following Max on Twitter?
Yeah, I'd been following Max and Stacy, and part of it for me, like the gentleman that orange pilled me, like meeting him in person and having that relationship. I just wanted more of like, I love the YouTube videos, but like I want to meet people.
Sure.
And like, are you real? I just want to make sure before I put like everything into this orange coin. I just want to make sure.
Does it matter to you that they have a handshake and you look them in the eye and they're real people rather than just digits?
Absolutely. I think for me personally, that's part of the education experience and is.
So on a lark, you bought a ticket to El Salvador, zipped down to meet a bunch of people talking about Bitcoin when you had never been to the country. You didn't know anybody face to face. Had you had any interactions with any of them other than just following them online? None.
Zero.
You showed up?
My suitcase did not show up. So I wore the same clothes for the couple of days I was there.
Not the orange tie.
Yeah, no. The picture.
You left the suit at home.
Yep.
It's not really.
The picture I have with Max is in a white polo that I'd been wearing for a few days.
Okay, so you show up. Is it a conference? Or is it a hotel or something?
Yeah, it's an event at a private event at a hotel, and
it was a bunch of people who were into Bitcoin.
Yeah, so it was packed. I had the opportunity to meet Max and Stacy, say hi to Robert, and I was like, "Wow, these people are real, and they seem very genuine and nice." And
what'd you do? How long was it? A couple days?
The event was a few hours. I poked around El Zonte and Bitcoin Beach and just kind of walked around and kind of took it all in.
And then you flew home.
And I flew home.
And then what happened?
I'm trying to think through all of because it's not a lot of people that you meet in person. At least it wasn't for me. Somehow I saw, I think Eric or one of the Bloomberg guys must have posted on X about an event at Bloomberg. So I went to a few of those.
Kunis, you mean?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I had the opportunity to go to a few events there a few years ago, and just shaking Jeff Seiferd's hand, and
Sure.
before the ETFs were launched, and
Okay, well, let's go through. What are your days looking like? You're still doing your minerals investment businesses.
Yeah.
So your day job is that.
Yeah, we're collecting checks and
you're collecting
doing
checks and you're doing
reports,
your thing, and it's fine, and you're still not wearing a suit, you're not wearing an orange tie, and every day is normal.
Yeah.
For again a successful TradFi guy, except you've got this sort of hobby thing that you're kind of getting really more and more into, right?
And it's interesting because when I talk to people about Bitcoin, they just don't seem that interested.
Why not?
I don't know. I think it's the most interesting thing ever. And so,
hang on.
Yeah.
You didn't in December of 2020.
Right.
What's the lesson about that, if there is one, for you?
I mean,
tell me the moment of insight. You were trying to sell the guy, and you said, well, the way to sell him is I'll go buy some Bitcoin, so we'll have common ground, because you're a really good salesman. And then you bought the Bitcoin, and then you let him sell you on it. Well, was there any particular thing as a successful entrepreneur, mid-30s millennial, that he said that's where the light bulb went on and said, oh my gosh, Bitcoin's really different?
I don't know if there was one moment. I think it was the education, the discovery process of this is January of 2021, buying some Bitcoin and then seeing the price run up from the mid-20s.
Go up. One of the great all-time winning learning strategies.
Yeah, and it, like, just I had not witnessed.
You're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
So how far did it go up?
It was 69,000.
From when did you buy?
22,000.
So
I bought
how
on
fast
the way.
Did it go up from 22 to 69 when you were holding?
I mean, it felt like just a couple of months.
Was it? It's pretty fast.
5-6 months. And so, And so then gaining that experience of buying from the 20s up to 60, down to 15, up to 100.
Let's talk about the 69 to 15 trip.
I felt sick to my stomach buying it at 15, 16, 17,000, but I knew it was the right. I was convicted.
So you didn't sell at 69. Did you? You sell any at 69? You took any off? All right, so it goes from 69 to 15.
The only reason I've ever sold is I get over my skis. I get so excited. I'm all in.
You don't need to tell me that. It's fine.
No, but I mean, just it's the reality of you got to pay for something.
Sometimes you got to pay for life, right?
But like,
exactly.
I'm all in. When I say I'm all in, like, there's not like I'm empty.
You're empty.
Yeah.
When did the tie go on? October.
Beginning of October.
Why?
I saw Sailor wearing an orange tie.
Now we have to talk about Sailor. So I have a good friend who is a prominent analyst that when I asked him about MSTR, he says, it's more of a religion or a cult. Do you think it is?
I think it's a Bitcoin meme stock, and I mean that in the most complimentary way.
Okay, what is the most complimentary way to call MSTR a Bitcoin meme stock?
In the same way that Bitcoin has a marketing department called Number Go Up, I think there's going to be very few companies other than Strategy that are going to be able to have that following from retail, whether retail is important versus institutional or not. You have memes or cartoons of Sailor, right? All of these portraits, all of this following. So, like, you can have other chairmen and other CEOs, CFOs, executives be excellent, or other people like Dylan LeClaire be excellent communicators about what a company's doing. But I think having that marketing aspect to it is something that Strategy has, that if GameStop would put Bitcoin on their balance sheet because they've already been a meme stock, maybe they could also do. That I think other companies will be jockeying and trying to emulate. And maybe they will, maybe they won't. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting time that we're in as far as these Bitcoin equities or Bitcoin meme stocks. Again, I mean that as the most positive from a attention standpoint, an education standpoint, because who's like the head of the memes? Elon. Well, when he posted recently about, and it's gone in relation to the gold in Fort Knox, that got my attention. I'm like, what? Is he actually posting that it's not there? You know, like these things get people's imaginations going. And I guess hopefully statistically that would lead some percentage of people to want to learn more or start a conversation somehow.
What does a meme mean to you?
I view it as a cartoon that either makes someone laugh, or inspires them to want to think more on it and maybe have a conversation with somebody else about it. So when you attach
that word to the word stock, what do you get? In other words, what's a meme stock to you?
Yeah, it's a stock that makes you think. I mean, how else are you going to...
Well, you clearly think about strategy quite a lot, right? Because you actually are a frequent participant in the True North group that talks about what you call the Bitcoin meme stock quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know a lot of stocks that are talked about as much as strategy is talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And
is it warranted that it's talked about as much as it is?
I think if a stock is the best performing in a certain year against literally every other stock, yeah, it's probably warranted.
Is it a good investment?
I think
for you,
investing
I'm not asking for financial advice. I'm not actually. Is it a good investment for you?
I think
a Bitcoin meme stock.
I think over a long enough time frame, yes. You know,
what does that mean? Over a long enough time frame?
I think it could be misinterpreted as something like GameStop, where you were rewarded.
That's the non-Bitcoin meme stock.
Where you were rewarded to leave, whereas with Bitcoin meme stocks, you're rewarded to stay.
Mm.
And I think that's really powerful and something that it might take people a few cycles of volatility to understand.
So we have just a couple minutes left. Tim, you have amassed a quite remarkable audience in a short period of time. And you've had some really amazing guests. Some of them actually got along with each other. How do you see your gift to the community in what you're doing now? What is that? Say a little bit more about that. I mean, you're a guy that clearly can afford to do anything you want to, and you're spending your time on this.
I think Bitcoin is where the puck is going. I think there's so much to unpack. I mean, until recently, I couldn't have told you the difference between self-custody, collaborative custody, and multi-institution custody versus just having a single custodian. I could have told you like parts of it, but not all of it. And that's just one example of like, you can run a node, you can all the way to Bitcoin meme stocks. So to your point from a little bit earlier, I think to the extent that I can bring a unique perspective of someone that's at least been through one cycle, wears a suit and tie, but is still in my early 40s and very hungry to learn more. I think that's the highest and best use of my time.
And last question, when you look back 20 years from now, what word will you use to characterize your contribution these days?
I'd say exploration. I think all of this...
Appropriate for a landman.
Yeah. Lots of exploration. So we'll uncover everything we can.
Well, thank you very much for letting me finish my questions from our November 5th interview. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Hope we
you
can do
provide
it.
a really valuable service, and it's really nice to get an understanding of the context for it. Thank you.
Thank you.